Hello everyone, my name's Paula. Welcome to my home office. Coming to you live on Facebook for some gentle yoga today. So we're really gonna focus on our spine, our hips, all those things that like to get tight on us today, and maybe just a little upper body chest work as well. So grab your mats. If you're someone who likes to use a block or a strap, make sure you grab those things now too. Also pillows and whatnot can help us, especially if sitting on the floor isn't overly comfortable. So again, if you don't have your mat ready, now's the time. Run quick, grab your mat, grab your block, grab your strap if you like to use those things, or grab a pillow, grab a blanket if you would like for our final relaxation time, especially if you plan on milking that just a little bit. I know I would love to, especially today. So with that, we'll get started. So finding your comfortable seated position on your mat. Making sure that we find that position that we can sit in for a little bit. So for me, it's easy pose. I like to place one foot in front of the other. You may like to stack. You may like to sit in a different way. The most important thing here is to make sure that we are feeling comfortable in our seated position. Once we found that, connecting those sits bones, those two bony parts of our tush, connecting those to the ground, and then bringing our rib cage over our pelvis as much as we can. Once we found that position, make sure those shoulders have rolled back so that our spine is as long and fabulous as we possibly can make it. Crown of the head is going to lift up towards the ceiling, and we slowly begin to acknowledge and notice our breath. Noticing our inhales and our exhales as we begin. Making sure to also acknowledge the sounds around us. Acknowledging the sounds of our house, maybe of the people in our house. And just letting those sounds, those distractions become part of our background noise, part of the world around. It is over there and we are right here, and letting ourselves be comfortable with that. As we find that natural breath, we slowly want to expand it. So today, let's imagine a nice balloon right where our rib cage separates. And with each inhale, we're going to put air into that balloon. And with each exhale, we're going to squeeze the air out. With each inhale, we're going to try and inflate that balloon just a little bit more than the breath before it. And with each exhale, we're still trying to squeeze all that air out of our balloon. So finding and practicing that deep belly breathing. Big inhales and strong exhales. Letting ourselves have 3 more breaths, trying to find that fullest, deepest inhale and that strongest exhale. After that third exhale, we're going to take one normal inhale and exhale, and using the exhale, that normal breath, we're going to lower the chin down towards the chest, beginning our spinal warm-up and wake-up. Taking a moment here, noticing if we're holding any tension in our neck or in our shoulders. If it's comfortable, we can keep our eyes closed through this. Otherwise, feel free to find a focus point to let our eyes drift to and from. And we're slowly going to begin rocking our chin collarbone to collarbone. And then shoulder to shoulder. Letting the movement grow as you become comfortable with the movement. If we notice any uncomfortable tension or snap, crackle, pops that aren't feeling very good, make sure we reduce our range of motion. If this all feels comfortable this morning, let's go ahead and use a nice big inhale to circle the chin up and an exhale to circle the chin down. Remember those deep belly breaths that we found earlier, so fully inflating your inhale on the way up, or your balloon on the way up, and squeezing the air out as we exhale down. Next time chin draws to chest, let's switch the direction of our circle. Inhaling the chin up and exhaling the chin down. Let's allow ourselves 2 more breaths. And before we come back to neutral, we always want to make a stop with our chin towards our chest to make sure the world isn't spinning too much in front of us. And if the world is strong and stable, we can lift our head back to neutral. Continuing our journey down our spine, we're going to inhale the arms up. Great big letter T here. On the exhale, we're going to draw chin to chest and contract back. Inhale to draw the chest forward, and exhale to draw it back. So moving with your breath at your pace. If you're moving faster than me, that's absolutely fine. If you're moving slower than me, that's fine. Let your breath move your body. Let's take 2 more breaths here. And after we finish our 2 inhales and exhales, once again, we're going to come to a seated position, this time meeting with hands at heart center. Moving through our lateral flexion, so warming up our side body, getting our spine moving side to side. Inhale, reaching the arms up nice and strong. Exhale, that right hand's going to float down, and we're going to reach over as far as is comfortable. Inhales to bring the arms back up, and exhales to reach to the other side. Inhaling and exhaling. Again, find your rhythm with your breath. If you're moving faster or slower than me, that's absolutely fine. Think about keeping those sits bones connected to the ground in front of you and getting the longest, fullest stretch we can through the side body with each stretch to the side. We're going to go 1 more time to each side, so make sure you're staying balanced and even. Inhale the arms up. This time we're going to add a twist. So as we exhale to the right, both arms come down, touching the floor on either side, going just as far as your breath will take you. If your fingertips don't reach the floor, don't worry about it. We can bring them to our feet or to our hips, wherever feels natural. Inhale the arms up. Exhale, we twist to the other side, keeping shoulders over our hips so we're not rounding, And moving with our breath again. Inhales to stretch and exhales to twist. We're going to go 1 more time to each side. Again, make sure you stay even. So even if you finish after me, make sure you take that moment, do both sides, and then we'll all meet together, hands in heart center. We're going to take our stretch into our hips. So we're going to do a little bit longer hold here. We want to make sure that our legs are stacked. If it's not comfortable to have both legs crossed, we can stick one out to the side. But we're going to draw one leg across, other one in front. And here we're going to inhale, walk the hands forward. Keep your hips connected to the ground as best you can. And let your ears fall between your biceps. Now some of you may walk really far forward. And I'm going to turn so that everyone can see from the side. Walking our hands forward, hips connected to the ground. We're going to hold and breathe here. We're going to take 3 full breaths. Thinking about creating long long muscles through the back, maybe into the hips if we're feeling some tension or tightness there. And now make note of whichever foot is in front. So if your right foot's in front, I want you to walk your hands off towards the right. If your left foot's in front, I want you to walk your hands off towards the left. Again, keep both sits bones connected to the ground, and do your best to keep your shoulders square so we're not twisting too much. And again, we breathe for about 3 to 4 breaths. After your 4th exhale, we'll use that inhale, the 5th breath, to walk our hands like we're tracing a rainbow off to the other side. Again, trying to keep shoulders square and hips on the mat. You may notice more tension or more intensity in the stretch. That's very normal. Walking our hands back to center, and then walking ourselves back to our tall seated position. And now we're going to switch our feet, and it's gonna feel weird, and that's okay. So again, find your sits bones, and then when you're ready, finding an exhale and using it to walk your hands forward. When you found that point where you can stretch and draw your ears between your biceps as much as you can, we're going to hold and breathe for, again, about 4 to 5 breaths. If we're finding more tension as we've switched our feet, recognize that this is normal, and think about sending the energy of your breath to that area of tightness. Imagine that spot releasing and relaxing, and all this extra wonderful fluid and blood flow reaching those tight areas. When you're ready, once again, noting which foot is in front, and then walk your hands that direction. And again, we hold for about 4 to 5 breaths. After you've finished that final exhale, using the next inhale to walk your hand off the opposite direction. Again, remember, this will probably feel a little bit more intense, and that's okay. Again, think about breathing into those areas of tightness, of tension. Walking our hands back to center and bringing ourselves back up to a nice tall seated position, we're going to prepare for cat-cow. So making sure we've got plenty of room on our mat, shifting ourselves forward, and making sure our knees are right under our hips and our wrists are right underneath our shoulders. From here, we can either curl our toes under or lay them flat, whichever is more comfortable for you. And then finding a nice strong exhale, we're going to press ourselves up, chin to chest, and drawing the tailbone down, trying to create an upside down U with our spine as best we can. On our next inhale, keeping the belly button engaged toward the spine, we're going to draw our nose and our tailbone up towards the sky for cow. As we exhale, we return to cat. And as we inhale, we bring ourselves into cow. Exhaling and inhaling. On this next movement, let's make it a little bit more mindful, and this time I want you to think about starting the motion from your tailbone. So slowly allowing the tailbone to begin the movement and the nose to finish. Same when we go into our cow pose. The tailbone starts the movement, and then we slowly bring the nose up. One more cat, one more cow, just like that. Tailbone begins. And cow. Now we're going to reverse it. We're going to start the motion with our nose. So drawing the nose down, allowing the neck and the upper back to start that movement, and the tailbone finishes it. Same as we draw into cow. One more time. Let the nose start the movement, and the tailbone finish it. One last time into cow pose. From here, bringing ourselves back to our neutral spine, pulling hips back to heels, reaching the arms as far out in front as we can. And again, letting the ears fall between the biceps, getting a nice, beautiful stretch here in our child's pose. From child's pose, we're going to move into a child's pose flow. So we're going to move between our kneeling plank and our child's pose. So anchoring the hands as far out in front of you as you can. On our next inhale, we're going to pull ourselves forward into a kneeling plank. As we exhale, we draw the hips back. Thinking about warming up the shoulders, warming up the chest, keeping those hips lifted and that belly button engaged to the spine. The next time we pull forward, we're going to add a little chaturanga push. So we're going to bring ourselves forward, shoulders going slightly over the fingertips so our elbows stay over our wrists as we lower down halfway, pushing ourselves back up, and then returning to child's pose. Let's do that 2 more times. Inhale to pull forward, shift those shoulders a little bit further forward, lower down halfway, push it up, and return back. Last one here. Inhale to pull forward, shoulders over wrists, press it back up, and return to child's pose. Option here to stay in our child's pose. Option to take a slightly deeper stretch with our puppy pose, lifting hips over knees, walking the hands out in front, and again bringing ears between the biceps, or bringing it all the way into our downward dog. So choice is yours where you want to practice. If we're in our downward dog, remember we can add movement to help free up the back of the legs, the hips. And then from whatever pose we're in, whether child's pose, puppy pose, or downward dog, let's walk our hands to our feet or our feet to our hands, whichever feels more natural. Finding our first forward fold. In forward fold, we're going to let that crown of the head release and relax. And we're going to send love to the back of the legs, the hamstrings. I know a lot of us are doing a lot more running and cardio activities. And so bending the knees, and then inhale to lift the hips. Exhales to bend, inhales to lift. With each lift, thinking about the tailbone pointing more and more towards the ceiling. One last inhale and exhale here. With our next exhale, we're going to bend the knees as deep as we can, using a big inhale to lift to a flat back. Option here to use the floor. If you're a little bit more longer limbed than I am, we want to have a nice straight flat back. So I use my shins, blocks work, or even large bullocks. Exhale, bring the hands all the way down to the ground, deep knee bend, and we're going to circle the arms all the way up. Great big stretch when we reach the top. Exhale, let those hands slide down. From here, we're going to step our feet a little bit wider than shoulder width apart, and we're going to turn our toesies to face the outside corners of our mat. Inhaling the arms up. I'm going to step back here just a little bit. Inhaling the arms up. As we exhale, we're going to keep our back with our shoulders aligned over our hips, just like we're sliding our back down an imaginary wall. And we're going to draw our elbows in. As we inhale, we reach back up. Exhales and inhale. So turning sideways here so we can see my spine. Exhales and inhales. Now your body's probably really wanting to do this. Keep those shoulders over those hips so that we can work into those inner muscles of our thighs, helping to loosen and release. That'll also help release some low back pain if we've been dealing with that lately. On our next movement, we're going to make this a little bit bigger. So now we get to drop those hips back. Bring them all the way around. Give yourself a nice big hug at the bottom, and then inhale to sweep the arms back up. So exhale, bring the arms down and around. Give yourself that hug. Inhale to sweep them back up. Exhales and inhales. Again, we move at our pace with our breath. One last time, and we're going to hold here at the bottom. Letting the hands reach to the ground, lift those hips nice and high. Heel toe the feet in just a little bit narrower, still wider than your hands. And again, we're going to do that bend and straighten to help warm up and wake up those hips. Exhales to bend, inhales to lift. Again, we move with our breath at our pace. Giving ourselves one more inhale, one more exhale. And then heel toeing our feet all the way in, coming back into our narrow base forward fold. From here, we're going to bend our knees so our hands can reach the ground, and our right leg is going to step back for a lunge. And we're going to hold here for just a moment, thinking about forcing that heel back towards the ground. Getting as much of a stretch through our calf as we can. Then lowering that knee to the ground, rising ourselves up, and thinking about those sits bones trying to point straight down at the ground equally. And if you get a little hello from the front of the thigh here, you're doing it right. If you get a hello anywhere in your body, you're probably doing it right. If you get pain, please bring yourself back down to the ground. From here, we can challenge our balance by bringing hands to prayer or even overhead. From here, sweeping our hands down to the ground, framing that front foot. Our right hand is going to stay next to our left foot, and we're going to take a twist. So turn your belly button towards your thigh. This hand can stay rested on the thigh, or if we're comfortable with it, we can extend the arm up, making sure our palm is facing the same direction we are looking. So we don't want that palm face behind us, we want it face in front of us. Lowering left hand down to frame the left foot. Back toes curl under. We're going to step back to a plank or a kneeling plank. Choice is yours. Again, we're going to lower through that chaturanga. This time, sweep the nose up, drop the hips, and come into your first upward facing dog. From up dog, we can transition to child's pose, puppy pose, or downward facing dog. Choice is yours. Wherever you choose to practice, we're going to hold here for 3 breaths. After that last exhale, once again, bring your attention to your hands. We're going to walk our feet to our hands or our hands to our feet, whichever makes more sense. Finding that forward fold. Using a nice big inhale to lift us to flat back. Exhale to draw us back down. Even deeper knee bend if we can to roll ourselves all the way up. Great big stretch when we reach the top. From here, our hips are going to pull back. Belly button stays tight and engaged. So as we shift backwards, we keep that lovely straight spine and we don't end up with a big booty pop. Hands are going to come to heart center here. With our breath, we are going to twist ourselves. We're going to keep hands in prayer. This is kind of a gentle warm-up for those hips, focusing on keeping everything from the waist down quiet. So my knees like to kind of twist side to side as I do this. So I really put a lot of energy here to make sure that they stay level, just as they are now. So inhale, we prepare here. Exhale, we're just going to twist. Inhales bring us back to center, and exhales, we twist to the other side. Inhales and exhales. Moving with your breath at your pace. Remember, we're just keeping it gentle. We're not torquing our spine, at least not yet. No, not ever. We don't ever want to torque our spine in yoga. That would defeat the purpose. One more twist to each side. And exhale, fold forward, bringing hands to the ground. Anchoring the hands with a deep knee bend so we can step our left leg back. Finding that full extension and really thinking about pressing through that left heel, getting that stretch as best we can. And then slowly lowering that knee to the ground, bringing ourselves up, and again, thinking about those hip bones pointing straight at the ground beneath us. Again, we might get a hello. We like hellos. If you get an oh no, please reduce, come back down, and find a stretch that's safe. If we want to challenge our balance, we can bring hands to prayer or extend them up overhead. When you're ready, your hands are going to sweep down, frame your front foot, your right foot, anchoring left hand next to right foot. Torso turns towards the thigh. And again, we're going to reach that hand up if it's comfortable. If it's not, we keep it rested right on the thigh. Bringing both hands back down to frame the front foot. We're going to step back to our plank or our kneeling plank. Again, shifting shoulders forward so our elbows can stay right over our wrists as we lower into chaturanga. When we get about halfway down, we sweep ourselves up into our upward facing dog. And then exhaling, bringing ourselves back to our puppy pose, our downward dog, or our child's pose. Choice is yours. Holding for about 2 more breaths. Practicing those deep belly breaths. And when you're ready, we're once again going to walk hands to feet or feet to hands, whichever feels more natural. Bring ourselves into forward fold. Anchoring the hands, bending the knees deeply, trying to get that tummy and thigh together as much as we can. And we're going to rise straight into a chair pose. So a little bit of a strength challenge here. Bring hands to prayer, keep the knees bent, keep the spine straight, and bring yourself into your chair pose. My ponytail is she's just got a mind of her own this morning. We're going to take this into a chair flow. So inhale, we're going to stretch up. Exhale, we sit back. You want to engage the arms, inhaling up and exhaling down. We can add that circle. We got 2 more, and then we're going to hold back in that chair pose. Last one here, and we hold. Bringing hands back to heart center, we're going to take a deeper twist. So inhaling to prepare, again, just like before, we're going to twist, making sure those knees stay balanced. Now, if you're someone who can sit back so that our elbow hooks, go for it. If you've got to contort your knees or round your back to do that, don't worry about hooking the elbow, just hook the wrist. And we breathe. Bringing ourselves back to center, Unwinding, standing back up, it'll feel yummy. 2 more. And hold. Other side. So again, I'm going to turn so I'm at least looking at you. Again, if we can sit ourselves back and down, keeping a nice straight spine, go for it. Otherwise, we twist and we worry about hooking the wrist. Do a quick check of those knees. Make sure that they are still stacked one right next to the other. And bringing ourselves back. Standing up. Great big swan dive forward. Inhale, lift to flat back. Exhale, lower down. And now walking those feet into our straddle. We're going to take a bit of a twist here. So from our straddle position, we're going to walk our hands right in front of our face and then shift our left hand so it's right in front of our face. Right hand's going to go to our hips. Make sure your hips are nice and level. So if you get your hand up there and you realize that one hip is really high and the other one is not, bring yourself back to center. And then once we're balanced, take a look over that shoulder. Again, if it's comfortable, we can extend that arm up. If it feels like your shoulder is very unhappy with that, just keep it there. Make your little shark fin. Bringing ourselves back to center, so unwinding. Our right hand is going to replace our left, and our left hand is going to come to our hips. Again, make sure those hips stayed level. Spine reaches nice and long, and when you're ready, take that gaze over the shoulder. Again, if it's comfortable and safe for this shoulder, we can extend that arm up towards the sky. When you're ready, bringing both hands down, taking a deep knee bend. We're going to roll ourselves all the way up. Great big stretch when we reach the top. Hands come to heart center. Taking a moment, acknowledging which side is which. And we're going to turn our right foot to face the front or maybe the side. So if you need to adjust yourself on your mat, go right ahead here. We want to keep both hip bones facing forward. We're preparing for a warrior 2 pose. And so we're going to bend that front knee, keeping our back leg straight. This leg can be 90 degrees or greater, wherever's comfortable for us. And we're going to open our arms nice and strong into our warrior 2. Thinking about grounding both feet into the mat, feeling the blade of the back foot, the heel. And then thinking about anchoring. I always think about spreading my toes so I can really feel the big toe and the pinky toe connecting with the ground. Taking this into a reverse warrior, back hand to back leg, front palm turns up, we reach for the sky. Bringing ourselves back, warrior 2, and we're going to take ourselves back into our straddle. So straightening the front leg, bringing ourselves back into our straddle. Keep the toesies pointed somewhat at the corners of our mat. Inhale the arms up. Exhale, slide back down that imaginary wall, coming into goddess or horse pose. Again, those 2 sits bones pointed straight at the ground, shoulders aligned right over our hips. And we hold for just 2 more breaths. I know this is everyone's favorite yoga pose because it's just so not easy. Inhale up. Now, our left foot's going to turn. Bring that right foot so the toesies face the long edge. And our front foot faces the short edge. Bend those knees. Bring yourself back down into your warrior 2. Gazing over those front fingers. When you're ready, transitioning into that reverse warrior. So back hand to back leg, front palm turns up, and we reach for the sky. Bringing ourselves back to neutral, or our warrior two. Turning our feet back to straddle. And then one last time, inhale those arms up. Exhale, slide back down that imaginary wall. Again, thinking about keeping those hips right under our shoulders. I always like to think about pairing shoulders with a hip bone. Every shoulder needs a hip bone. Bringing ourselves back up. Exhale, fold it forward. It's gonna feel yummy. Slowly walking ourselves back to center, back to that narrow base forward fold. And from narrow base forward fold, we're gonna transition ourselves back to all fours. So bringing ourselves down to our knees, finding that tabletop or 4-point base position, and we're gonna do thread the needle. So from here, drawing attention to our right hand, we're gonna slide it underneath our left, going as far as we can. I always imagine that I've dropped my keys under the couch or under the car. Some of you might be actually looking under your couch right now, wondering, oh Lord, what is that? And if that's you, don't worry about it until after the Shavasana. Bringing ourselves back to neutral. Taking our twist to the other side. Left hand is going to slide under our right. Reaching long. Bringing ourselves back to neutral, and then pushing ourselves back to a seated position. Legs come out in front. We're going to do some seated forward fold. So if you're someone who likes to sit on a block for this, this is a great time to grab it. Or if you're someone who likes to use a strap or even a belt to help with your seated forward folds, again, this is a good time to grab it. From here, we're going to stretch our feet out, our legs out as far as we can, and pull your big toes back, your toes back towards your knees. My first yoga instructor used to always tell us to always have active toes and not lazy toes. And she's right, it'll help engage these muscles a little bit more. So as you're ready, finding a nice strong inhale, and then exhale, think about taking belly button to thighs or nose towards your toes. And breathe. Wherever you're at, take a hold. So for me, I'm going to grab my ankles. Maybe some of us are going to grab our knees or our thighs. Grab a hold, and on the next inhale, lift to a strong flat back. And then exhale, release back into your forward fold stretch. On your next inhale, use it to lift yourself back up. We're going to take a reverse tabletop position. So we're going to bring our hands behind us. I like to take my fingertips pointed towards my tush, but if that's not comfortable, you can also point them away. We're going to bend our knees and we're going to shift our tushies so that they're halfway in between fingertips and heels. From here, with an inhale, we're going to lift our hips as high as they'll go. So for some of us, we might be able to lift ourselves all the way up. For others, our chest is going to go, no, we don't do that. And so then we keep those hips a little bit lower and think about lifting that chest as high towards the ceiling as we can and engaging those glutes, thinking about pushing as high as we can. Slowly lowering those hips back down to the mat, extending the legs one more time. On the next exhale, fold forward, finding that length and that lovely stretch. If we feel this stretch more in the low back than we do in the hamstrings, that's a really good sign that you might get some benefit from lifting those hips. So try sitting on a pillow or even a large book. I'm in my home library office, so books are all around me. So I keep thinking books. But lifting those hips a little bit. Again, take a hold of wherever you're at. Inhale, lift that flat back, pulling that chest forward. And then exhale, releasing back down. Using an inhale to bring yourselves back up. And we're going to do either a reverse plank, an elevated reverse plank, or a tabletop position again. So again, our reverse planks, fingertips can be towards our tush or pointed away. And if we're going to try the reverse plank option, we're going to point our toes and then we're going to just squeeze our tush and lift our hips. If you're looking at me like, Paula, you're crazy, bring the feet back in, lift, find that stretch where it is safe for you. So again, picking your version today. If it's comfortable for our neck, we can even allow our head to rest back. Lowering ourselves back down, drawing ourselves to the center of our mat, taking a hold of one leg. Let's slowly lower ourselves all the way to the ground. Once on the ground, we're going to let ourselves rock side to side. And then slowly let those knees drift off to the right. Bringing those knees back to center. Again, let yourself rock side to side. And then slowly bring your knees all the way off to the left. Bringing your knees back to center. Taking a hold behind the thighs, extending the legs up towards the ceiling. Flexing and pointing the feet. Drawing our knees back in. Finding our happy baby pose, so opening the knees, taking the hands in between, grabbing a hold of the ankles or even the back of the thighs again, wherever is comfortable to encourage those knees to the sides of the body. If we notice that our hips roll off the ground, bring the feet together or the heels closer together. Bringing our knees back together, lowering the feet all the way down to the ground, and allowing the knees to fall open into reclined butterfly pose. In this pose, let's think about pressing the feet together as strongly as we can, and then maybe even trying to lift the heels off the ground. This is a release for our psoas muscle, that muscle that connects from the low back to the front of the hip that can cause us so much issue, especially when we're trying to stand up from a seated position after being there for a long time. Slowly releasing that contraction or that pressing of the feet if we've chosen to do it. Bringing our knees back together, drawing our knees back in, and then taking a moment here to get any last little wiggles that we may want to get out. Take time to shift those shoulder blades underneath the rib cage, making sure our hips are comfortable before we extend the legs one at a time onto the ground. Finding our Shavasana. And for any reason, if this is uncomfortable, make sure that we take our option to bend our knees or even find a different resting position, but allowing ourselves a few moments here to rest, to find and experience stillness, and to allow ourselves to let our mind do as it needs to do. If it needs to rush through a series of thoughts, just don't let it linger too long on one. Keep things moving and let your body and your mind relax. As you're ready to wake up, begin with 2 nice full breaths. Remembering that you have the option to stay as long as you want or need in your final resting position. And when we're ready to rejoin the world, we do so slowly and controlled, making sure we start with small movements of fingers and toes, and allowing it to grow through our wrists, ankles, until we feel ready to engage in that total body stretch. Slowly bringing ourselves back up to seated when we feel ready. And taking time before we return to the chaos of social distancing. And take a moment to honor yourself, honor everyone who has practiced with us today live and who will practice with us in the future as they revisit this video. Allowing those hands to come up and rest gently at the third eye. And then take a moment and bow and say to yourself and others, Namaste. Thank you all for joining me for Gentle Yoga. Tomorrow there will be classes, as always, at 9 or 10 o'clock, so make sure you're watching for those. They're great, and we love helping you stay healthy and happy through this wonderful, weird time. So namaste all.